Solo llama al abogado Andrés Mejer.
What can you do today if you have DACA? Incredibly important. You can't just sit back and wait. You can't just rely on DACA and say, hey, I'm good. I don't need to worry because I have DACA. Well, DACA may not protect you. I've defended many clients that were charged with domestic violence, a DUI, or even something more innocuous like certain shoplifting charges. And the government tried to rescind their DACA. Even if they won the case, they're saying, well, just the arrest alone in the exercise of our discretion means you're not a good moral person and you're not entitled to DACA. So 6 arrests, no convictions. And trial attorneys telling me, well, good people don't get arrested. Maybe good people get discriminated against. Maybe people get judged differently because of the color of their skin and they don't get the benefit of the doubt. They get arrested, but then it goes through the proper channels and they realize they can't prove their case, so charges get dismissed. That is an equally plausible scenario, depending where one lives. So, what can you do if you have DACA? Because there's plenty of ways that you can lose DACA. Family-based petition. Maybe you've now married a U.S. citizen. You've been here, you're now in your late 20s, early 30s. You went to college, you met the love of your dreams, you got married, and hopefully he or she is a U.S. citizen that can help you adjust. Now, if you entered the U.S. legally, either initially or with advanced parole under Obama when you were allowed to do it, your spouse, being a U.S. citizen, is an immediate relative. With legal entry, in approximately a year, and every day it's taken longer, you can get your residency in the U.S. If you did not enter the U.S. legally, or you did not take advantage of the advanced parole and you've only entered illegally, you may need a waiver. It all depends. What do I mean by that? Well, let me give you an example. Let's say that when I was 16, DACA was announced. When I applied and received DACA, I was still a minor. I maintained my DACA all throughout. That means as an adult, 18 in this case, I never accumulated unlawful presence, because DACA is not lawful status, but it's also not unlawful status, if you know my meaning. It's complicated. The bottom line is, I did not accrue a period here without permission, without the government knowing where I am, and without having applied and received something. So I have not received a lawful presence as an adult. So if my wife applies for me, because she's a U.S. citizen, I could leave the U.S., have a consular visit in my country, and come back as a green card holder without needing a waiver. If I was here for more than 1 year, as an adult without permission, then she would need to apply for a waiver for me. So family-based petition, it could be parent, it could be spouse, it could be children over 21. Children over 21 are a problem because they don't qualify for a waiver. And likely I will not be applying under DACA if I have a child over 21, because unless I gave birth at when I was born, it's a little hard to do. U visa, victim of violent crime. Now, there are 6 requirements. I'm not going to go over all of them. The most important is that you were a victim of a qualifying crime, number 1. And number 2, you reported it to the police. If you didn't report it, it doesn't count, because the whole point of a U visa is to take criminals off the streets. It's a tool for law enforcement, because most immigrants are afraid to talk to the police if they know of a U visa, and a U visa will protect them in case they find themselves in ICE custody. You helped investigate a criminal or put a criminal behind bars, you will get a benefit for you and for your whole family through a U visa. Now, asylum, it's another option. It isn't valid for everybody, because frankly, those that have DACA, they've clearly been here for more than a year. If you're still a minor, well, you can apply for asylum because the clock hasn't started for you until you turn 18. But generally speaking, you have to file within a year of entering the U.S. If you don't do that, you don't qualify for asylum proper. There might be something else you qualify. In the family of asylum type scenarios, it goes from one extreme, asylum, in which once it's granted, you get refugee status for a year, and after that, you can apply for your green card. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is you get an order of deportation, but because you proved that you're going likely to be tortured by your government, if you go back, you don't have to go back, but you don't get work authorization or any other benefit. And in the middle is withholding of removal, where you didn't file timely, or you were convicted of a serious crime that prevents you from filing asylum, so you don't get refugee status, you get an order of removal, but you get to stay here with work authorization. So there's a variety of different options depending on the scenario. Most people that have DACA have obviously been here more than a year. Most of them are now adults. So if they hadn't filed asylum, they likely wouldn't qualify for asylum proper unless changed circumstances. Think Syria, Iraq, Venezuela. So they came here, there wasn't a problem. Now there is a problem, and now they are afraid to go back for whatever reason, and accordingly, they would be entitled to asylum. Cancellation of removal is another option. So think of parents with children with severe medical conditions. Could be cancer, could be blind, could be some deformity, balance issues, vertigo, leukemia. Unfortunately, there's a lot of medical conditions in which kids and adults can suffer from. Another option is a learning disability. Think autistic. They're in the spectrum in some fashion. So parents, undocumented, who've been here more than 10 years, are not disqualified because of crimes, have children that actually could be children, could be spouse, or it could be parents who are U.S. citizens or lawful permanent residents, but most often this scenario is applied to children. For the simple fact, if I get deported, my child will likely come with me, but my child is an American citizen, has access to care of doctors, psychologists, medicine, and treatment, and has an opportunity to get better. Even if they suffer from autism, there's a quality of life that they can have here that they probably wouldn't have in other countries. If I get deported, my child comes with me, an American citizen, because I'm his or her guardian, I will get a green card. Now, they only give 3,800 of those a year. It takes years to get, and it is a trial. It is by no means a simple process or a cheap process, but it is an option for some. The point of this is, if you have DACA, do not wait to find out. Do not wait for Congress to do what they're supposed to do. They haven't done it in the past 19 years. Maybe they'll get their act together and do something this year, but it is hard to believe that this president will do anything that favors the immigrant community. His whole thing is, I'm anti-immigrant, I will protect you. Your world is coming on fire because the immigrants are taking your jobs. They're raping your daughters, and they're killing your sons, and they're bringing drugs in. That's what Trump says, that immigrants are awful. You and I know that's not the case. I'm an immigrant, my family are immigrant. We lived twice in Chile, twice in Israel, twice in the U.S. Came to the U.S. not speaking English as a child, moved to Israel as an adult not speaking Hebrew. I've lived the immigrant experience multiple times. I know the kind of drive that gives you. I know what it is to come back from what is to live in poverty and have nothing. I know that, as most immigrants have experienced it. Picking up and moving to another country is not simple. It's not easy, and you don't do it lightly. You do it for a reason, and it's to have a better future for you, for your kids, for your family. Not to come here and commit crime. That's ridiculous. And Trump should know better. He should just ask his wife. She didn't have an easy path here either. Bottom line, apply for something. Don't wait. Meet with an immigration attorney. Evaluate your options. If you're in a long-term relationship with someone who's a U.S. citizen, a green card holder, I've heard many times, well, you know what, I didn't want to ask her because I don't want that to be the reason that we get married. 100%. I always tell my clients, do not make life decisions based on immigration consequences. Live your life and we'll help you normalize your immigration status. But don't get married or divorced because of immigration. Only do it because it's the right thing to do, because it's what you feel. So thank you for joining us. My name is Andres Mejer, immigration attorney, speaker, and author, and today we spoke